Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 to 20 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 2, the cow, from verses 203 to 210. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the Merciful, the Gracious. واذكروا الله في أيام معدودات فمن تعجل في يومين فلا إثم عليه ومن تأخر فلا إثم عليه لمن اتقى واتقوا الله واعلموا إنكم إليه تحشرون. And remember God during the limited number of days. But whoever hastens in 2 days, then there is no sin upon him. And whoever delays, then there is no sin upon him for whoever is pious. And beware of God, and know that you will be assembled before him. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يُعْجِبُكَ قَوْلَهُ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَيُشْهِدُ اللَّهُ عَلَى مَا فِي قَلْبِهِ وَهُوَ أَلَدُّ الْخِصَامِ. And among the people is one whose speech will please you in the worldly life, and he cites God as witness to what is in his heart, while he is a fierce disputer. وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا وَيُهْلِكَ الْحَرْثَ وَالنَّسْلَ وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَسَادَ. And when he turns away, he strives in the land in order to corrupt therein, by destroying cultivation and offspring, and God does not like corruption. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُ اتَّقِ اللَّهَ أَخَذَتْهُ الْعِزَّةُ بِالْإِثْمِ فَحَسْبَهُ جَهَنَّمْ وَلِبِئْسَ الْمِهَادِ. And when it is said to him, beware of God, glory in the sin overtakes him, but hell is sufficient for him, and wretched is the resting place. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْرَ نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ رَؤُوفٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. And among the people is one who will trade his soul to seek the approval of God, and God is kind to the servants. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا ادْخُلُوا فِي السِّلْمِ كَافَّةً وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. O you who believe, enter into submission entirely, and do not follow the steps of the devil. Indeed, he is a clear enemy to you. فَإِنْ زَلَلْتُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَتْكُمُ الْبَيِّنَاتِ فَاعْلَمُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. But if you backslide after what has come to you of proofs, then know that God is almighty and wise. هل ينظرون إلا أن يأتيهم الله في ظلال من الغمام والملائكة وقضي الأمر وإلى الله ترجع الأمور. Are they waiting unless God comes to them through the shade of clouds together with angels and settle the matter? And to God returns all matters. صدق الله العظيم. God, the Amazing, said the truth. Now these verses, they end with what we are being revealed about the Hajj here, with one verse, which is we have to remember God during the Hajj in certain days. Now, God say earlier that we should fast 3 days of Hajj, which is telling us that the Hajj is 3 days. Now, God is saying that if somebody needs to finish the Hajj in 2 days, that there's no blame upon him. That's as long as he's someone who is pious and who's aware of God. So you need to have an excuse or a justification why you need to finish in 2 days. Your trip is much cheaper if you go with 2 days, i.e. the plane tickets, for example, or that you need to address a situation that's happening, an emergency at home, and therefore you have to hasten in 2 days. It isn't supposed to be just because you feel like going faster and you don't want to spend too much time in Mecca and during the Hajj. For at that point, that person is not aware of God. They're not aware of their own feelings and why they're doing what they're doing. So those people, it is a sin upon them for them to shorten the time, because they are not being pious and they're not being aware of God. And you should be aware of God, because to him we're going to return. And God's going to ask us about our decisions and why we're doing things. And if we cannot justify ourselves correctly, and at that point we're in trouble. And there's also no blame if you have to delay the time you're doing your Hajj. So yeah, it's 3 days, but sometimes some people who are old or some people who have certain situations, they don't have the physical ability or the capability to finish it in 3 days. So they need a few days. Or when it came down to the passing of the food, they weren't capable of finding people that are A, worthy of taking the food, and B, let's say that they wanted to cook it. It took them a lot longer to get the supplies and everything. So there's no blame for them if they took a few days, because they're doing it in the name of God. They're being more pious. They want to deliver a better product in the name of God at the end, right? So it's very important for us to understand the pilgrimage is about the remembrance of God. is to increase this awareness that every time we're speaking, we have to keep God in our senses, that He is right now with us listening. This is something that requires a lot of practice and remembrance. So for me, I have a strategy, and I believe I shared it before, where imagine somebody is standing behind the wall behind you. You can think that it's someone you know, you understand his presence, you remember his presence, and it's like someone who's looking over a camera in your room. Okay, so you can keep that in the back of your mind sometimes when there is a camera in the room or if someone's behind the wall. Now, put that on top of the sky and like all over the sky. To me, God is in that situation there. He's above the sky, right? So I, in my mind, remind myself that above the sky, God is there. And He's with me, hearing me, listening to me, and watching me right now. And at that point, it should instill a confidence in your heart, but it also should instill some fear, so that you don't say or step something out of line, and like you might get an idea like, hey, this is a funny joke, but in reality it isn't, because you are at this point disrespecting something that you shouldn't be disrespecting, so you go quiet. But you still in your mind know that God has heard you, so you still feel scared, you still feel a little bit worried, and then it helps you fix yourself so that you try to shed away from these whispers that you yourself give or the devil gives. So being aware and pious of God is something that's very important. Now God is now addressing a certain set of people, these hypocrites. Hypocrites honestly fit this line very well. Like, they are capable of expressing the world to you in a way where it's so helpful for you that this is how you're going to escape the system. This is how you are going to become a better man. You should go work out and start learning how to fight. And you should worry about how you become a millionaire and a billionaire. And this is what you need to do to look at my expensive cars. And I'm only doing this to fight evil. And it's all about God. And God has been rescuing me so much. But yet their actions are completely different. Because when you do see what they're trying to sell people, they're just hustlers. They're liars. They go ruin the kids of other human beings. They're teaching them arrogance. They're teaching them how to extract money from people who are vulnerable. And then at the end of the day, they're making the children become worse. He's ruining the children, or she's ruining the children. But they think that they're doing good. And if you remind them of their sins that they constantly do, well, they always have a justification, or that it was part of their life and they had to go through it. They never really feel remorse. Those people are clearly enemies to the religion. They're clearly enemy to you and your kids. This verse applies to many people nowadays. I understand that I've made videos about certain individuals that these verses fit very well. And if you read the verses and observe them, and then you go observe his action and the way that they perceive themselves and how they just want to steal everybody's money by lying to them, and then trying to speak fast, because if I speak fast and use big words, at this point you're going to think that I'm somebody who's educated, that I'm saying the truth, and once in a while I'm going to invoke that God is helping me and I'm fighting for God. Yet when you do remind them of the verses of God, or you show them how you're doing it incorrect, they don't care. They're very, very arrogant in the way that, like, whatever they're doing is incorrect, that no, it's justified for them. That's for somebody else. It's not for me. Hey, like, put a shirt on. You shouldn't go around showing people how big your muscles are, because that's not going to really matter. No, this is part of the way that I'm proving to children that you need to have a good body, because look at my body. Well, who cares about you? You're not somebody who's being very pious in the moment. You're not being aware of God. You think you're better than God because the way that you're expressing yourself, that you have it figured out, and what you're selling is the worldly life for people. But you're expressing it in a way that it's going to give you heaven, yet you're never showing any characteristics of a person that's going to heaven. So as God says, that hell is sufficient for him. This is judgments that you have to have in your mind when you're addressing with people. If you have the capability and if you know how, you can confront them about it. Show them the verse. Show them who they are. Hopefully they'll change. If they don't change, you did your part as a human being of warning them of a wretched end. Because even if someone came to me and showed me these verses, and he shows me actions that I've done that fit these verses, I will have to sit there at the end of the day and sit there and try to see why he's saying to me what he's saying. If I find some truth in what he said, I would change myself out of fear of God. Because unfortunately, when you're doing something that has overtaken you, which is evil, the devil does decorate it for you. Like, you know what? Like, I know it's not right for me to do X, but there's this benefit that happens from it. And it's okay because there's a benefit. No, you shouldn't have been doing it in the first place. And now the devil is telling you that there's a benefit, therefore keep going. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. And this is that decoration that happens with hypocrites and liars, where you don't want to fall in that trap. So sometimes if you are expressing to a believer or somebody that you do care about a verse, you should see them, you should see the hamster start rolling in their head. Like, hey, or why is he saying this? Why is he perceiving this? Am I blinded to something that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing? And then you start to assess yourself. And then in the future, you try to measure what that person said to your life and the way you're doing your actions. And yeah, obviously, there's some things that you could just quickly consider. No, the person's clearly incorrect because he didn't understand the verse, or that my actions was not the way that he intended it. And then you move on. Now, on the other side, there are people who literally dedicate their lives to God. Okay, so they are trading themselves to God. Those people tend to have a life that is a little unorthodox. So in a sense where it's like, okay, yes, trading and making money and having a job is something that's important in life. But that person made a trade with God, gave himself to God. God showed him something about the world or about himself, where that person now has a mission, where that person has found a way where he traded his soul and God said to him, I want you to do this. So he wholeheartedly pursues that. And his mission ends up the way that God wants it to end up, as long as he's doing his part. So, but there are some other people that obviously that are, I'm not saying that anyone who's making a trade with God that needs to leave their job or leave their wife or leave their husband or have an unorthodox way. But you always have to keep in the back of your mind that there are some people who are very dedicated in their trade with God, where this worldly life is not very concerning to them, because to them it's they want to build in the name of God. This is a concept that I want you to understand. You are going to be working and serving God forever. If this is something that is daunting for you, then you might not be a person that really wants to serve God. Maybe you're serving him in the moment right now because you want something. Maybe you're serving in the moment right now to feel something about yourself. But if God inspires you, get out of your bed and go to the roof and look at the sky. I'm too lazy. I'm too tired. It's maybe a little later. Well, at that point, you don't want to work. But this is something that we're going to be doing forever in heaven. This is something that is going to always be around. You always have to serve God. This is something that you should always be looking forward to. Now, there are people who truly gave in to that trade. So they have dedicated their whole life, their whole being, their whole essence into doing God's work on land. God is free of us. He doesn't need us. God does not want us to do anything, but God is someone who is very thankful, and he's very appreciative, and he considers everything that you've done and considers everything that you've been through in his name. So as I say many times, when I'm feeding somebody, I'm not feeding him. God is feeding him through me. I just want to be part of that process. If I want to build a big shrine and a big building and I put the name of God on top of it, that's because me expressing my love to God. If I want to go to the side of a mountain and carve the name of God in the middle of it, that's me expressing my love to God. If I want to build a school so that people would learn and understand the education that is pertaining to mathematics, sciences, to religion, to logic, this is for me building for God. And this is something that we're going to be doing in heaven, by the way. Yeah, obviously the food's going to come easy. The having companionship is going to come easy. The access to God is going to become easy. There is no more hustling and hurt and pain and war and fighting. But we still have to work. We still have to put our effort in. And the people who worked really hard right now in this earth, it's going to be very easy for them to work in the hereafter because they wholeheartedly enjoy it. If I'm capable of waking up in the morning, and this might be a little sound extremist, but in the day and age, it seems like it's required for me to get up in the morning and to fight the enemy 12 hours a day, a full shift, and then go to sleep and wake up and repeat it the next day. I would love that, because in the back of my mind, I'm doing this for God. I'm attacking God's enemy. I'm sitting here working against God's enemy. This is amazing. For me, doing these shows and doing this stuff, it's dedication to God. So I do stress to you, and I do recommend for you to wholeheartedly trade yourself to God, in the purpose of God, in the mission of God. The worship and servitude of God is not just prayer and fasting. It's literally putting work in, putting effort in, putting jihad in, is what the word in Arabic is. And then God is also now addressing the people who believed. Okay? You should wholeheartedly go into submission. So submission is completely understanding the concept that Everything is from God. Okay? Whatever you put in the pot, you're going to be eating. If whatever you're eating is disgusting, then it's because you put that in the pot, and God is God is the truth. God is not going to change the recipe just for you, or he's not going to change the food just for you because you kept doing something wrong. But let's say that you ruined your pot, you did something. God will teach you a way to make it bearable and edible and good again by giving you the right ingredients that you need to put in the pot to push away the other things, to counter what you did. So whatever you did ends up being good if you trust in God and you wholeheartedly go into submission. To sit there and start to fear things that you shouldn't be fearing, that's not submission. Hey, you should go across the street and go get the food and come back. Well, no, because at that point I might get arrested because of who I am, and because I'm going to get arrested and I'm going to have to sit in jail, I'm too scared, I shouldn't do it. Bro, just submit. You got the feeling to go get the food and come back. It's very simple. And if you get stuck along the way, then God has written that upon you and upon the other person, because God is using you to punish the other person. That's amazing. Of course, I don't want to be a trial for the disbeliever. That's something that we keep saying to God. I don't want to be a trial for the disbeliever. I don't want to be, God is going to use other humans, other believers, for a way so that the criminals go to hell. I might get into an argument with a disbeliever and he ends up hitting me. Well, that person, because he hit me, that could be one of the reasons why he is going to hell. So God put me in that situation so that I could get hit, so that person has the reason to go to hell. Because most of his life, he sat there and abused and was miserable to other people, other disbelievers. But at this point now, he attacked a believer, and it's enough for him to go to hell. So this is where sometimes God puts you in a situation where you're required to be there because you are serving God in that moment. So we should be always happy. And this is not always in things that are negative. Because despite you getting hit, God is going to reward you, and he's going to make things better for you. And then he's going to also remove that injustice away from you. Because God is not putting you there on purpose to get hurt. God is putting you there on purpose to test the criminals. And if the criminal raised his hand and hit you, he made that decision, and he's going to live that consequences, and he put that salt in his own pot. So go into submission wholeheartedly. And the thoughts that you know that are godly, that are from God, they're very apparent. And the things that are from the devil, they're also very apparent. Yes, the devil is very sly in the way that he might paint things out to you. But at the end of the day, if it's not something that sounds reasonable, and you have to sit there and get confused about it a lot, and you can see where the verses are applying, then don't do it. It's very simple. Don't do it. Oh yeah, that girl is very pretty. Maybe you should engage with her and start talking to her in a way and see if you can get her number. Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Oh, okay, now that you got her number, maybe you should see if she likes you, flirt with her a bit. Yeah, there's no harm in that. Oh, okay, all of a sudden now you're having this lustful ideas and you're now possessed with the idea of this girl, and it's not leaving you. Why? Because you follow 2 steps from the devil, and it just, now you're getting the results of what the devil was trying to build in you. Lust. Sorry. Now, after you get the clear proof that God is guiding you, if you do move away, right, God is free of you. God does not need you to serve him. You serving him is making your life better. You're seeing the reality, and then you're building for your hereafter where you're going to be serving him forever. But if you do move away, so what are you waiting for? To see that how amazing God is. So are you waiting for God to appear, for you to make a difference, for you to actually believe? But at that point, it's too late. At that point, you've already crossed the line that shouldn't have been crossed. You had to already believe, you already had to be a submitter, you already had to be willing to serve God. Because if you're just serving someone else or serving yourself, well, anytime you're serving someone else, you're technically serving yourself. What do you want? You got what you built, you got what you asked for, and it's the end of the story. And now you go live with whatever decisions that you made forever. You didn't want to serve God now or before. Why would you want to serve him now? Oh, because you saw how great he is? Well, even if God puts you back on earth and lets you live another 1,000 years, you will go back to what you were doing because you are not someone who is honest. And this is something that God has expressed. Well, someone can clearly say, well, how do you know that the person wouldn't change? How would you know the person wouldn't change? Because God has already judged us. God already knows. God is proving it to us. You see what I'm saying? God created us, he knows us, and he's proving it to us that who we are is who we are. If God creates us and puts us in hell, and he goes, no, you're worthy of hell because of who you are, and how you were going to act of the free will that I gave you, you're going to say, well, it's not fair. I did not witness that. I guess you're God, yeah, but I didn't witness that. So God already knows that you're going to hell. You have a chance to go to heaven, but you have to witness it upon yourself. That's what I believe is the sad reality for a lot of people. You just wholeheartedly, with that peace that God has given us of complete free will, you are the person who's deciding. You decided to not love the entity that created you. You decided to turn yourself on the entity that created you. What do you want? It's very simple. And on the other side, those that understand it, like those that love their parents, okay? Those that love their companions and their friends, those that have empathy and heart, for them, the entity that created them, this Almighty God, is everything to them. They love Him so much where it's like, yeah, you wish for death, but the problem with death is now you're just like sleeping. You're technically not like fully aware of God in that moment because you're sleeping and dead. So death is something that's nice where it speeds the time for you to get close to your God, but you're away from God in that moment because you cannot pray and worship and have that close connection. But as soon as you're resurrected, you're back with Him forever. So this is how I think love is. The love is being around them forever, like always. People have no problem loving their spouses and wanting to live forever and make these promises of the world to each other. But why can't people share that to God? I know a lot of you are good believers, inshallah, and especially the people that take the time to watch this show. I always find it intriguing that these episodes are not really promoted by YouTube and they don't really get much views. So I think the people who are watching it are sincere. I truly believe that. And thank you very much. I really do hope you're enjoying these. And hopefully we learned less. I learned some stuff too today. So alhamdulillah, everyone's always learning. And I hope you guys have a great day. And hopefully we'll meet soon. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace and God's blessings upon you.